convenience being one of the free people who produce their own meat and eggs, purelypoultry.com has both the chickens and supplies you need to raise your own poultry.
Would you like pets who produce eggs you can barter with? Your own source of clean meat?
A swan on your pond to make your home strikingly beautiful?
How about some pheasants and quail roaming in your woods for enjoyment? If so, check out purelypoultry.com.
Burger House 41 is open at 1860 West Mason in Green Bay. You're invited to indulge in one of life's simplest pleasures, a great burger. We're grilling up 15 fresh signature burgers and have over 30 craft beers for the perfect pairing. Experience Wisconsin's best flavors, including white cheddar cheese curds, a variety of specialty sandwiches, milkshakes, and gourmet frozen custard. Burger House 41 at 1860 West Mason is open at 11 a.m. daily. Taste Wisconsin. Taste amazing.
6%? 7%? That's a lot of money. I might as well just do it myself. Well, that might be true, if a lot of that money you're paying a real estate broker is going toward outdated methods, unnecessary fancy offices, and overpaying executives for a lifetime of service. But you don't need to go that route. Silver Compass Realty is a full-service real estate brokerage serving all of South Central Wisconsin, and the commission is negotiable. Silver Compass will explain exactly what they're going to do to help you buy or sell a home, how that will help you reach your goals, and stand right beside you every step of the way. They want to be your broker, your expert, even when you're not in the middle of a transaction. Silver Compass Realty, helping you find your way home. Contact them today at silvercompassrealty.com or call 608-361-8608. Silver Compass Realty, helping you find your way home. And welcome back. You're listening to the Free People Show at freepeopleshow.com. We're talking about the Antifa Alt-Right clash in Berkeley and the overall issues involved. Miles is really enlightening us and inspiring us about this particular situation. One thing that occurred to me during the first section when you're talking about it is it reminded me a lot of how angry people originally fueled the rise of the Nazis in Germany after World War I, and that they were so poor. Their currency was worthless. They had just been trashed by the Allies and were really sort of devoid of identity and options, and were really a very low societal self-esteem, that they were ripe for people to come in, Adolf Hitler for one, and just to get them all fired up to be angry at everybody else and to make targets of everyone else. I don't know how much of that is at play here, but that's what it sounds like to me, that our society has gotten so disconnected and so, people absent of identity, people absent of not knowing who they are and why they're here, because society has changed to a certain extent in that regard, that they're just angry because they don't know who they are and they're just mad at everybody. I don't know if you think that plays a role in it, Miles, but I think you should tell us some more.
Well, I'm going to say this real quick part, there are a lot of Republicans out there who I don't agree with, who are being referred to as the alt-right or Nazis, and I think people need to be really specific about, if somebody's a racist, yeah, call them a racist. If somebody's, if somebody just, you disagree with them, that's, don't call somebody a racist if they're not a racist. Don't call somebody the alt-right if they are not part of that thing, and there's so many different degrees and all of this. I know that it gets complicated. But the next point I want to get to is, what is the ideology behind some of these groups? And with the alt-right, believe it or not, this is going to be hard for some people to believe, but the alt-right is actually somewhat of a socialist ideology. They what they apparently believe in is like a rebirth of the Roman Empire, which is insane. I mean, that's just like, I'm trying not to swear, but yeah, like, Richard Spencer is a terrible, terrible piece of crap. And, the one thing about it is, you think about it, if Hillary gotten elected, we probably wouldn't be having a discussion about him. He would just be swept under the rug. And that's one good thing about Trump being president, is it kind of shows America everything, all that dirt that's been under the rug. There's no more hiding it. All the crap that we've been... the toilet is overflowing. There's no more hiding this shit in American politics anymore.
But your point about a new Roman Empire, that's exactly what Hitler was telling people. The Third Reich was the third Rome.
The alt-right is Nazi. They were doing Nazi salutes. They're anti-Semitic. They're doing they're speaking German. I mean, their opposition to Israel is not a legitimate opposition based on that. Say that Israel's government's actions have been bad on this or that, which is there can be. Has Israel done things that I don't agree with? Absolutely, but their opposition to Israel is based off of a very evil, hateful thing. So the alt-right is anti-Semitic and racist against other groups as well. Now, the Antifa people is just this idiotic, like, we're going to hide our face and post on Facebook and YouTube as if the government can't find our IP address, as if Facebook can't do facial recognition technology. I mean, these people are idiots. Like, they're ultra paranoid. And the thing I got to say about the Antifa is, in a lot of ways, they're communists. So what you got right now is this weird battle between a weird subsection of socialists and a weird subsection of communists. And I know that some would say the Antifa are anarchists or they're socialists, and it's like, no,
they use anarchism. That they should not use that word. They don't know what that means. They shouldn't.
Yeah, I mean, when it really comes down to it,
they're not anarchists.
They're not even socialists. And then, so that's another thing is, it's really important out there is that people involved in the Black Lives Matter protests or the Native American or indigenous protests or immigrant rights protests, these Antifa people are going to try to co-opt your movement. You need to keep them excuse my language, but you need to keep them
the heck out.
The heck out of your movement. I was at a rally recently where some Antifa idiot was telling immigrants about how they need to not be pacifists, and it's like you're telling a group of people, many of whom are undocumented and so forth, you're telling them to be violent. You know, the hell with you, man. I mean, these are the first people that are going to get deported if they break the law.
Yeah, it's setting them up for a huge amount of trouble.
So the question is, how did we get here? How did we get here? Let's rewind a little bit. Okay, so at one point we had the Tea Party movement, and Fox News was totally against it for about the first few days until they realized it was going to be big and that they could co-opt it.
Which they did.
And so you got the Tea Party and Fox News, and everybody in the Tea Party was considered racist by the left. And then you had the Occupy Wall Street protest, greatly supported by MSNBC, and all those people were considered lazy, stupid, union thugs by the people on the other spectrum. So the fact that we couldn't have a real debate in America between the Tea Party and Occupy Wall Street, the fact that both sides saw each other with just such hatred that we couldn't have a civil debate between the principles of the Tea Party and the principles of the Occupy Wall Street. And I think that a lot of the things that were going on in those movements for those people, we saw that in some way Occupy Wall Street has a lot to do with Bernie Sanders. And you think that the Tea Party actually has a lot more to do with Rand Paul, and it really probably should have been that way. But in some ways, Donald Trump maybe got some, amount of people.
Oh, sure, yeah.
Which, what did the Tea Party accomplish? It accomplished winning a crap ton of elections all across the country. Mm-hmm. The candidates they got, however, were pretty bad because in the end they voted for things like the National Defense Authorization Act and indefinite detention of
There's
American
a lot
citizens.
of people that thought Ron Johnson, for example, who I ran against, was originally a Tea Party candidate, not one anymore.
They won elections. It's just that their candidates ended up going along with the same status quo crap in the end.
Of course.
And then Occupy Wall Street, what did they accomplish? They got Bernie Sanders to... They would have actually probably had Bernie Sanders win the election if Hillary didn't rig the primary, But
yeah, I mean, we got here by a long stretch of divisive politics.
The fact that
and what I hear you saying is that the entrenched powers, the Republican and Democratic parties, those parties, when they see opposition to what they're doing or to their power structure, what do? They disregard it first. They try to poo-poo it and try to hide it. But when they can't hide it anymore, when it starts being interesting enough so that people take notice, then they have to co-opt it, which is what they did with the Tea Party, what they did with Occupy Wall Street, as you pointed out, became a vehicle for the Bernie Sanders campaign. Those same people supported him. But anything that comes up, they get their fingers into it, they use it for their own devices, and they get people elected who, in the end, have to participate in that two-party power structure.
And actually, that's
in
what
Washington.
I should say. What did Occupy Wall Street accomplish? They got Obama reelected.
But I guess.
Because that was kind of like a rebuttal to the Tea Party movement in some way. But I'm going to point out this real quick. This has to, what is going to be the effect of things like what happened in Berkeley with all this, and places like that? Well, like I said earlier, the effect that these protests in Berkeley possibly could have is really a negative effect on the poor and the homeless and the peaceful protesters of Berkeley. But if we look at, for instance, Occupy Wall Street, because of Occupy Wall Street, not saying it shouldn't happen or whatnot, but as a result of Occupy Wall Street, there was what was called H.R. 347. The little thing that Tammy Baldwin voted for as a congresswoman.
Boo.
The Federal Grounds Improvement Act, which basically says that the government can come in and say, okay, this is a federally restricted zone, and you don't even know that it's federally restricted, and it doesn't even have to be a federal area, but now you were protesting here or just in the area of this zone, and your protest or your presence is now a felony. That was passed because of all the scared politicians when they saw Occupy Wall Street, and Tammy Baldwin, as a congresswoman, voted for it. She then went on, to be in the Senate, where she voted for the National Defense Authorization Act.
And she's a big champion of the F-35. Come in here,
She loves Ron Johnson and Scott Walker's policy when it comes to that. She's lockstep in with it. So the situation is crazier than I have ever seen it. In all my years of politics, I was a weird kid, believe it or not. I remember George Bush Sr. getting elected. No toddler remembers crap like that. And I remember my father screaming at the TV about it. So I've been awake since I was a little kid. And I've seen a lot of weird stuff in politics over the years. But this situation we have now is the craziest I've ever seen, where you've got this alt-right people kind of being supported and ignored by the Republican Party, and you've got these Antifa people who seem to never protest Democrats. They don't protest Democrat speakers.
Even when Democrats do the same thing. They're completely silent.
Anytime a Republican comes here and speaks, it's, capitalism is violent, let's protest. Well, why don't you protest the Democrats too? They're only committing acts of violence against the Republicans. I don't agree with the Republicans, but I also don't agree with committing violence against them. Because one of my last points is the only thing that Antifa is going to accomplish is giving Donald Trump the 2020 presidency if he's not impeached. If he's actually running and runs in 2020, I very easily see him getting reelected because of the stupidity of these Antifa people. And I can't stress enough how angry I am about Antifa and the alt-right and how they need to be opposed by everybody.
I think we got it that you're angry.
I'm angry.
And rightfully so. It's really a very polarizing situation. And there's, I mentioned one way that it can be taken advantage of, but the other one is exactly as you pointed out. When there's an extreme section of a side of a spectrum, and I hate the right-left spectrum for politics because it's wrong, it's false, it doesn't really define, it's more of an up and down versus, freedom versus oppression. But looking at the way most people look at it, right and left, that there's an extreme section on one side, the other side takes advantage of it, tries to paint the whole side like that. And what we discovered is, over many, many years, is that the people in the middle, the people that aren't, invested on either side, look, and they're really still, sadly, looking at what's the lesser of two evils. And I think what you're saying is that the Republicans, if they're wise, and if Trump's running again, and again, I don't want Donald Trump to be president another day, but that they will use that against the Democrat Party and try to paint them all like that. But thanks, Miles, very much. We're out of time for tonight. Thanks to Jessica Murphy for being on earlier. We had a slight technical hiccup tonight, which is why we're down a mic, but that'll be resolved by next week. We do have a show on Tuesday. We will have a show on Tuesday. Go ahead, Miles, quick.
There is an answer. There is a solution to the problem. Here it's real simple. Talk to
everybody. Yes, talk to each other.
Talk.
We'll be back with the Free People Show on Tuesday. We're going to have a guest, Pete Augelli, talking about Bitcoin. Thanks for listening. See you next week.
Bitcoin.